Exposed Vegan Media Podcast. I am your host, Jaja Porter, a wife, mom, triathlete, and vegan chef. On this channel, you'll experience my ongoing docuseries capturing my swim, bike, run, and nutrition journey featuring all the people I interact with along the way. All right, episode 4 is here. This podcast is brought to you by Exposed Vegan Media, a podcast for all humans looking to develop and maintain a healthy lifestyle. I am your host, Jaja Porter, and with every episode, there's a learning from me on how best to share this information with you. I cannot wait to get into today's topic, Ironman Texas 2024. Let's get into it. First, we're going to start with a return visitor. She was on our first podcast, and I'm so excited to have her back. First, I'm going to pass it over to Jamie and let her introduce herself. And if you don't mind, for some of our new listeners, share a little bit about your why. Why triathlon?
I am Jamie Dismuke. I am, just finished my third Ironman Texas, 9th Ironman overall. And my why has changed over time, but essentially it's still the same thing, to basically do what I can today because I may not be able to do it tomorrow. So just go out there, live my best life, and make it happen. Also racing for those who can't, because my brother has MS, if you didn't know, and just seeing him go through some of the life changes that he's went through, it makes me really appreciate my body and my health, and to do what I can today because tomorrow's not promised.
Thank you, Jamie. And I appreciate you returning and sharing your why and sharing a recap of Texas. Next, we're going to hand it over to Eddie. I am really looking forward to hearing his story and his recap. But if you first don't mind, can you share with us your why? Why triathlon?
I wish I could tell you. I don't know. I fell in love with it, and I keep doing it against all odds. I wish I could tell you why. It hurts. Every day hurts, but I keep doing them.
We're still glad that you're here and you're here to share and that you keep doing them. And maybe throughout this conversation, we'll find out why.
God, I hope so.
Next, we're going to hand it over to Brenda. If you don't mind introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about your why.
I'm Brenda. This is my first year on Team Varlo. I've been doing triathlon for a very long time. My first sprint triathlon was in 2003, but this was my first full distance Ironman. I never thought I would do a full. I never had desire to do a full. I still don't know why I did a full. And my why, endurance sports is my happy place. I can't explain why, but I feel normal when I'm training, and I feel normal when I go to work and interact with other people. I feel just more relaxed. It's a drug that I need on a regular basis.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with us. So we're going to get right into it. Ironman Texas. For those that are not familiar with what a full Ironman is, because we have been talking about 70.3s up until now, but a full Ironman distance is a 2.4 mile swim. Can be in a lake, river, or ocean. This one was a lake. It is a 112 mile bike and a 26 mile run. Yep, at the end we do a marathon. And there's a lot of work that occurs leading up to it. So we're first going to talk about, what did you do to even train, if anything, for this race? And how did you prepare? Jamie, we're going to pass it back to you. Why don't you let us know, what did you do to prepare for Ironman Texas?
So for Ironman Texas and every other full, it has been a commitment over at least 6 months. Probably starting at 8 hours a week, all the way up to about 13 to 15 this time around, because I was using Tridot, which said less time quality workouts. So I think I only got up to like 15 hours a week. And then there's a lot of saying no to the fun stuff and saying yes to waking up early or staying up late and getting the workouts done. So yeah, leading up, pretty much the physical stuff takes a big toll, but I think mentally it takes a toll on you from being stretched in so many different directions. Nutrition wise, I was good and on point leading into this Ironman. I started the year with a cleanse and kept the almost no meat situation, more of a flexitarian though, because life happens. And feel like I kind of nailed the nutrition leading all the way through training, even up until the day of the race. So kind of try to plan that out a little bit better and be at race weight, which I was able to actually do. So I made that goal, set that goal. And then, yeah, I think because this was my third Texas, I kind of knew what to like the bad things to expect, but race day is always, the unknown. So I tried to get out, stay on the trainer for as long as possible to just push the watts, and then get out into the wind once the wind came in February, March-ish in the state of Texas, or in my part of Texas. And so, yeah, I don't know if you want me to go all the way into race week, but that was my leading up to Ironman Texas, and race week kind of just unfolded the same way, sticking to the plan, kind of tapering down, that type of thing. I think I tapered 3 weeks for this race versus my other ones, which was 2 weeks. So I feel like I kind of nailed the recovery part of it. Well, yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. Eddie, I feel like you're still going through recovery because you keep sharing with us your recovery methods.
What are you talking about? This? No.
Why don't you share with us what you were doing leading up to and how you prepared for Ironman Texas?
My preparation was called Not Nearly Enough. I did a handful of riders on Zwift. I joined a pool about a month ago, and I did a couple of 1K swims. And then I ran 13.1 miles once. I did that, and then I couldn't walk for 2 weeks afterwards. And that was when Jamie started her taper. I think about 2 weeks before race week, I ran. I said, let me go out for a long run, and I ran a half marathon. And then I got really bad IT band issues, and I legitimately couldn't walk for a week. So, and then I got over that maybe 3 days before I left for Texas. So my preparation plan is, can I say bad words here?
You can, yeah.
Nah, I'd rather not. My preparation work was meh. I'll figure it out.
Okay. But you made it to the start, and we saw you right before the start. So
You did. I wasn't crying yet. I cried a little bit. I cried. I peed, and I definitely, yeah.
I was excited to hear about your race once I saw your method of removing your wetsuit. So that's how we met. I'm super excited to hear about how your race went, especially now that you've shared your race preparation. But we'll get into it. First, let's get over to Brenda. Brenda, share with us what your race preparation was like leading up to Ironman Texas.
The one unfortunate part of this race, as far as timing goes, is it means you have to train through the holidays. Like I did 70.3 in Cabo in early November, and that meant just starting the long rides, long runs, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And I went into this with not a lot of confidence in my running because I had a high ankle sprain in 2018, and I DNF'd the Houston Marathon in 2019, and I was in a boot for 10 weeks. And so I feel like I can barely get through the run for most 70.3s, and I really did not have the confidence that I can run 26 miles. So my goal with training, especially focusing on the running, was consistency over epic sessions. So for 70.3 training, my long runs were like 10 to 12 miles, and I just consistently did those weekly, and I built up from that to 15. And honestly, my longest run was 15 miles, but I did it every single week, probably from like mid-January, February, up until taper.
So, I mean, the lesson in that is consistency worked for you.
Yes, consistency over big epic sessions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cycling, I love cycling. I'm a strong swimmer. I have a swimming background, but the run was where I lacked a lot of confidence. So I was, I was happy I was able to get through the run / walk / crawl.
That's good to hear for some, especially when if they have ailments or issues with running, because I do. I have a pin in my knee and a pole in my leg, so I have issues with the run, but it sounded like, again, consistency worked for you. So great job getting to the start.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's get into it. So the swim, 2.4 miles in that lake. Eddie, we're going to switch it up. Back over to you. How did that swim feel?
I almost drowned like 17 times. I had some guy grab my ankle and pull me down. I turned around to punch him in the face, and he wasn't there anymore. That's when I realized how slow I was swimming, that the guy actually had time to pull me down, drown me, and leave me. This is my third full Ironman. My first one I was lucky to do Lake Placid, where it legitimately turns into a draft. It turns into a whirlpool, and you don't really have to swim because everybody will take you with them. And Mont Tremblant, I was actually prepared for, and I did my swim in 1 hour 15, which for me was phenomenal. And this one, I jumped into the water and immediately met with what the fuck. So I realized really early on in the swim that this wasn't going to be my PR swim, but I made it in, I think, 140, and that was better than I could hope for, I guess. But it was gross, nasty water.
You did better than me. I was in the 150s, and I've been working on my swimming. So, hey, you made it through. So
I didn't drown for an extended period of time.
Right, but you're here to talk about it. So
here I am.
Yeah. So, Jamie, how about that swim?
Well, thank God for wetsuits, clearly, because that's what kept Eddie afloat when he got pulled under. But I kind of started at the front, the 115 section. And yeah, it was a fight around every single turn, and it was a fight in the canal. So I got, like I said, it was wetsuit. So that's always great in still murky water. To the nastiness, it's not the most see-through clean lake, but other than being around the turns, like, it was wide enough before the canal to kind of get away from everyone. But if you wanted to swim the line, you were gonna have to fight for it. Getting into the canal, I already had the mindset of like, all right, every time someone touched me, I am gonna surge ahead. And that's exactly what I did the entire time. I stayed to the center with the buoys so that I didn't get like pushed to the sides or into a kayaker. So I stayed to the center, and then every time someone would just barely touch me, I would throw an elbow and surge ahead. So that was my motto, and I was just trying to catch some feet, but it seemed like the feet, people tend to like try to look around and see their family members on the side. I had one goggle full of water, so I couldn't see them, and I breathed on the right. So I just threw caution to the wind on that part and was like, I ain't gonna see them anyway, so might as well just put my head down and keep swimming. So for me, the finish buoy came quicker than I expected, and I was, more than happy with what happened in the water for me.
I was so thankful that you let me know, you walked me through the course of the swim and the two turns. And once we got, what was going to happen with the canal, so that normally I have a little bit of anxiety with the swim because I always feel like I'm getting the water and I'm like, which way are we going? And why are you guys all the way over there? So when I looked at the map afterwards, I'm like, oh, I had a pretty good swim, but I also think it was, attributed to you actually sharing with me and walking me through for the practice swim where the left turns were going to be and that there was going to be a right turn for that canal. And I actually, when I got to that right turn to go to the canal, I saw a kayaker and I was like, okay, I will sight to him. And someone was in distress and moved right in front of me. So I was like, all right, I need somewhere else to spot. And I looked up and I was like, oh, hi, Chris. So one of our fellow triathletes was in the kayak that I was spotting. So even though I felt like I was getting beat up at those left turns, it was one of those where it was like, what's that movie with Chris Tucker? And he's like, which one of you hit me? It was kind of like that, where I wanted to fight people because I was getting kicked, but they were gone. Like Eddie said, so I was like, let me just keep going, because those turns at the Red Buoys were a battle. But
it was going underneath the arch. Like they should have had two, to be honest.
I didn't understand what was going on with that arch. I was like, do we really need to do this? Is this necessary? Is there a timing chip in here? So I was like, I feel forced to do it, but I really didn't want to, because you knew once you go through this middle arch, which was after the halfway point, it was congested.
Right.
Did they tell us that? Because I didn't pay attention.
There was a timing chip. The arch recorded your timing chip to update the Ironman Tracker app to let your family know that you went past the halfway mark.
I figured that because I've done Ironman Maryland and they have a timing chip. So I was like, let me just go under here because I don't want to get dinged for not doing it. But yeah, you knew you were getting beat up once you went through there because it was going to be congested. But thanks for that, Brenda. How did your swim go?
It was horrible. It was so bad. It was the worst swim ever. I come from a swimming background. I'm a super strong swimmer. Well, let me back up first. Before the swim starts, so I try to start in the front because I'm a strong swimmer. There was at least a 40-minute line for the porta potties, and there was 20 minutes before the race start. And I'm like, I can't hold it. I gotta go. And my husband, who was my Sherpa for the day, said, let me take your special needs bags, drop them off, you stay here. He came back and smiled from a distance and just said, come here, just follow me. And I knew that meant he found like another bathroom with a shorter line. And he was so excited. He was like, at first I didn't believe it. And then I saw a woman come out. There was not porta potties, but like permanent park bathrooms. And there was a long line for the men's, no line for the women's. Not even like I go in there, there were open stalls, perfectly clean with toilet paper, no diarrhea on the seat. It was an Ironman Day miracle. It was so great. I was so happy, and I had time to stretch and put my cap and goggles on. So I was just so happy. And I didn't realize that not a lot of women do these. So that was great. The swim was terrible. The swim, I tried to get in the front. I figured the hour and 10 minute would be a good pace for me. And I promise you the people that were in that corral were not doing that. Like I was crawling over people. I was swimming over people. So I never got to relax and stretch out and have a nice easy pace. It was just climbing through people the entire time. Like I figured maybe just the first half, but like the whole time there were just people everywhere. So it was a stressful, frustrating swim. And
did you try to drown me?
The water was, I probably crawled over you, Eddie. Yeah. That was me pulling your foot.
Brenda done told my secret. Like that was my secret. The bathroom was my secret. I wasn't even going to tell it on this podcast. Now everybody's going to know.
Well, if they listen, they know. If they don't listen, then they won't know that there's
right.
Yeah.
Oh, but speaking about women and full Ironmans, last year in Texas, because there was so many Kona slots, there was about a 40% field of women, while it was like 18% this year. So that's not always it's usually much less than men, but still, it was seemingly like a little less women this year than.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they don't share the participant list anymore, so you never know what you're going to get until you arrive.
Yeah.
So that's
Can we go back and talk about diarrhea on the toilet seats? Like, what's every race I've been to? There's diarrhea. What's with the diarrhea?
I mean, people have the morning race day poops, but sit on the toilet and get it on the inside, not on the seat. It's gross.
Well, we
Dehydrate.
all know you have to hydrate and hydrate and hydrate for Texas. Well, what does that do to your bowels? What does that do? It just liquefies everything. And sometimes when you're waiting in that 45-minute line for the porta potty, you are in such a tight and so ready to release that you can't make it on that seat.
No.
Just saying. Not saying I
No.
did it. It wasn't me though.
No.
Well, you were
no
in the
excuse.
bathroom. You weren't in the porta potty, so we know that wasn't you.
Me? No, I just went in the lake.
Yeah, I went to the bathroom in the lake. I didn't poop in the lake,
Yeah.
but I definitely went to the bathroom in the lake. That apparently was the only time I went to the bathroom when I ended up in the med tent later, but we'll talk about that. One thing that I loved, which I feel like through COVID, it was gone for a while, but now it's fully back. Wetsuit strippers. I love them. I love all of you volunteers that tell me to get on the ground and you're going to strip me and I no longer have to just pull everything off. It's amazing. And I am thankful for you, for any of you that volunteered and were a wetsuit stripper. Thank you very much during Ironman Texas, because I was ready to get that off. It was hot, after you go through all that, and to strip and to have them do that for you, I was happy.
We really established that I can't get mine off.
Yeah, you need a wetsuit stripper every day with you. But yeah, it was actually hot. I was hot in the swim.
It was hot. I agree. I was hot too.
Yeah. I wasn't hot the day before when we did the practice swim. Like, it felt comfortable, but on race morning, you could tell it was definitely borderline, especially starting to go through the canal. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was thankful that I wore the wetsuit because I was very close to Eddie about drowning because I hadn't done enough open water swim leading up to it. So I was thankful for it, but I was hot and I was thankful for those wetsuit strippers. All right, so this allowed us to go straight to transition, get everything together, and then we're on to our bikes. Brenda, why don't you start us off with this bike route?
So the wind was what I expected, and that's one of the reasons I chose a local race, is the heat, the humidity, the wind. This is where I train. This is what I'm used to. And when you hear people talk about Ironman Texas, they say, you got to train outside. You got to get used to the wind. And so the wind was what I expected. It sucked. It was terrible. What I did not expect were the terrible bike etiquette around the pelotons and aero positions. Some people were like riding over the cracks in the road, and it's like, what are you doing? So I was terrified of getting in a crash with another bike. If bikes were not around me, I wasn't fearful. But otherwise, I followed my plan. I took 2 good long breaks. I got off my bike, stretched, ate food, got back on, followed my plan, and did what I expected to do. Saved my legs for the run.
That's awesome. I wasn't that prepared, so
No.
yeah, I should have had a conversation with you leading up to. But Eddie, how did you feel about the bike course? Let us know. Tell us how you feel.
Girl, I've been waiting. Okay, so
I've been waiting to hear it. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna say F the Hardy Turnpike, okay? F my bike, F your bike. I'm gonna say that was brutal. It was soul sucking. It was awful, and I will take Lake Placid's 9,000 feet of elevation over 30-mile-an-hour winds any day. You can always change your gear ratio. You can climb. You can spin your legs. I'd rather grind up a hill than ride into the wind, because once you're in the wind, there's nothing you can do. And it's like you're grinding just to stay still. And it was just brutal. And I was like, oh yeah, where's this Hardy Turnpike everybody's talking about? And then I hit it, and I was like, fuck you, Hardy Turnpike, it's the best thing in the world. And of course, I didn't listen to any of the safety briefings or any of the things that told you like what we were doing. So I had no idea that we were doing 20 out. I thought we were going back. I thought I was going to have a chance to see my family in town, and they're going to give me the, hey, you're doing great. But no, we turned around and did it again. 20 miles and 20 miles again. And I cried. I cried. I learned how to pray a little bit. I figured out what I can sell my bike for. I think I can get, listen, I will sell my bike to the lowest bidder right now. And then we came back, and on the way back, I saw one of the most horrific crashes I've ever seen. And I kept going, because normally I would stop in a heartbeat, because, Jamie will tell you, when it's ingrained in you, like the first thing you do is stop. And then everybody knows about this knucklehead crossed the line he was going, I guess, back with the wind, and he crossed over the line right in front of the aid station, went head first into a guy that was going the opposite direction. There was no reason for him to cross the line. If you're going the opposite side of an aid station, you stop. You ask one of the people to bring you a bottle of water. This dickhead just crossed the line, went right on, head on, knocked each other completely unconscious. It was absolutely horrific. And all I could do was keep riding, because it happened in front of like 40 people, and I knew that the ambulance was just down the road. So, there was a lot of bad crashes that I saw. I had like 5 mechanicals, and I realized that I wasn't prepared. I didn't take my bike to get tuned up. I did just enough to get by. And that was my bike in a nutshell. I lost half hour to mechanicals and an hour and a half to poor training. So good job, Brenda. I'm glad you got training. I'm glad you did good, Brenda.
I did not hear about that crash. Like, I think it was soul sucking for me. And there was only so much I wanted to recap. Like, I've spent just the last maybe 2 days starting to think back, because during the whole race, I quit every race I've already signed up for that I've already. So during that time, I did think about, I don't even care what this bike is worth. Anyone can have it at this point. So I wasn't even, in that mindset. I was just, I'm done. This is the last race. I retire during this whole time. And I didn't know about the 20 miles of wind until Jamie had mentioned it, I think the day before. So that was the first time I heard. So I clearly was unprepared. I didn't look that up either, because I had just done a 70.3 3 weeks before. So I wasn't looking into any of that, but I haven't had a chance to go back and look at all the crashes. I just remember seeing people on the first wave going back, and all of the different ambulances. I mean, it was scary, because at first I was like, why don't you guys use that lane? And I realized that lane is for the ambulance to come get people. And then I would see people laid out on stretchers. And then the special needs looked like it was a barbecue. Like, people looked like they were done. They were out there just eating on the floor. And I was like, are you guys still racing? Like, what is happening on that?
That was me. That was part of the plan. I had to take my break. I had a 5-minute break at the special needs. I was eating my goldfish. That was part of my plan.
I didn't have that kind of time, because I was suffering. I didn't know what was going on that 20 miles up on the Hardy. I think if I would have really prepared more for that win, I just didn't know what was happening. I thought I was going to be done after that first loop. So when I looked over and I saw people, like, it looked like a party, a barbecue or stuff, because people were gathered and stuff, sitting down.
Yes.
Right. I was like, you know what? Let me just mind my business and keep pedaling, because I'm actually getting a little bit of tailwind. I'm feeling my confidence is coming back up. But I did see crashes, but I didn't know the detail of them, that someone walked across the highway, went or turned around. Like, that's crazy.
No,
I'm
he
gonna.
just rode directly across the highway, head first into another guy. It was brutal. But
That's
isn't it called a cookout in Texas?
It's a
What's that called? A
barbecue.
And
cookout?
yes, it's
Barbecue.
called a cookout, and it's not the turnpike; it's the Hardy Toll. Okay.
Whatever,
yeah.
whatever. The
Okay,
true way.
Jamie.
The true way.
Yeah, the true way. Jamie, tell us about your bike ride.
Well, I got some new wheels, and I was ready and prepared, and
Boo.
I actually was like, I want all things win. I want this to be hard until I got off the bike. But anyway, I enjoyed a nice, easy spin getting to the toll road because I was like already in my mind about, okay, you're going to have to push hard through that 20 miles of wind. Then you get a break, do it again, then you get a break, and then you can just give it all you got to the end, end of the bike. So I was happy on the first loop. Like, I got out there and there was no pros on the other side. I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like. I'm doing great. This is awesome. I'm like hitting my numbers. Things are going pretty good for me on the first into the wind. Like, I'm in the wind and I'm excited because I don't see a pro. I didn't see a pro until like mile 10 or 12. And so that excited me. And then I didn't see and then the men didn't even catch back up to me until I was like almost about to go into my to the turnaround to have the tailwind. So I was taking gratitude and happiness in what I was seeing compared to the years before. So I was happy on the first one. And then I hit that second loop and I started seeing all the carnage. That's when I saw the picnic at the special needs. I don't do special needs, so I don't understand that. I'm not finna sit out here in the sun and have no picnic and eat food and prolong my day. Like, I want to finish. So there's no special needs for me, and there's no getting off at a station. So I was surprised at how many people was actually stopping to take time in that heat. And it was hot. Like, I started cooling off a station 1. So yeah, and I knew coming with the tailwind, like, you feel the heat versus in the headwind, you don't feel it that much. But the second time around into the headwind, things got a little dark about the last 5 miles. And then, I was able to like positively talk to myself that I only got 5 miles, like 5 more miles of this suffering and you're almost done. But I got blew to the other side of the road. So people were not doing what they were supposed to do, and they never do. There's usually a ton of Pelotons at Ironman Texas. It happens all the time. If the motos don't have room, they can video, but they can't marshal, so to speak. So there's always a ton of Pelotons in Texas. So I was prepared for that. You can't beat them. Go with them, because at the end of the day, if I get a penalty, maybe I've saved myself that 5 minutes anyway by drafting. So if you can't beat them, go with them. That's what I had given myself permission to do at this race, because it was just too difficult to try to get in and out of it, push ahead of them, or try to stay behind. Like, it just got too complicated, and I knew I was going to crash if I just thought too much into it or got myself upset. So Pelotons is always a problem, but the wind was blowing me into the headwind around some of the curves and up the overpasses. I would get blown to the other side of the road, but a lot of people were riding to the far right when you were supposed to be in the middle. So there was a little safety buffer, but yeah, it was, it can get dangerous, and it seemed like it was a dangerous day for quite a few people. And once I got off the toll road, thought I was home free, but there's like a couple switchbacks. So getting off of the Hardy Toll, you do a switchback, which I remembered. So I took my time, went around that switchback, but I forgot about the one where you come down the other side of the overpass, getting, back into the other side of the service road to like mile 106-ish. And I literally hit the curb with my wheel. I thought I was going to come off, but I ended up catching myself, and I was like, oh, that was close. Like, it was super close. Like, so I almost crashed a couple times, but yeah, I was able to control it a little bit more. And, I didn't have the speed that I wanted on the bike, but given that everything that happened, or like how I was positioned, where I was seeing the pros, like I was happy with the bike. And so when I got off the bike, I was in a good mood. But I was moving quite stiff when I got off the bike. So I sat down in transition, put my shoes on, gave myself a little time. And I'm not selling my bike. I do want to ride it again. So the bike was hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but I kind of enjoyed it, other than like 7 miles of the second headwind.
How did you feel like your first, because this was your third time doing it though, right? So how did you feel? Did you feel the same way your first and second time doing it?
So the first time I did it was 2016, back when it was in April, before they changed it to the Hardy Toll Road, and it had flooded out. And so we had 95 turns. So this was, to me, better than doing 95 turns through country roads and back roads and all that stuff. I did the Hardy Toll in 2022. They have changed the getting there part, and like the getting to the Hardy Toll, but the Hardy Toll hasn't changed from 2022. And I felt it was pretty comparable to 2022, but maybe a little harder the second, like later in the day. But it was pretty comparable to then.
Okay, so you still felt like you liked it then,
Yeah.
and you like it now. Because I know
It's a
when I saw
grinder.
you my first loop, and you were like, Charlotte, let's go. No, you said, hey. The second time you said, let's go. And
Yeah.
you said, woohoo. And I was like, why is she so fucking happy?
I know. Yeah, I know. But
I am dying.
I knew
What?
you were into the wind, and in my mind, I'm like, hopefully this will be just a little bit of a
No,
boost.
it was a jolt. So
Oh,
I
okay.
was just like, okay, she's alive. And maybe
I was
if
really
I go over there, I'll be happy like her. So let me just keep going. And I remember she said this is 20 miles. And when I did get to you, I was happy. But the second time you said, and I was like, I am dying a slow death. And I was 10 miles in because I knew you were like 20 miles ahead of me. And you said, let's go. And I was like, this is it. This is the let's go. Like there's no more. Like nothing. I don't know if that second time was 20 because I was timing at 20 and it wasn't 20 at least on my monitor, and I had to get off at like 80, and I think it was 82 the turn. And I stopped because I had to hold on. I couldn't grab my bottle because I saw so many women that were like bloody on their arms. I don't know what happened to them, whether they ran into the wall or what was going on. So I was like, I have to get off to try to grab my bottle because I couldn't hold on to one and grab it. The wind was just so much at that time.
Yeah.
And I blacked out, I guess, because I know I stopped to drink it. And before you know it, I'm sitting. So how long have I been sitting here? And I was like, let me get up and get out. And the only reason I think I finished is because, well, I know the only reason I finished because I thought about my sons. Like they were my why. I didn't want them to arrive, get off the plane and look at the tracker and be told like your mom's in the hospital. Like that was just in my head. Do not let your son, his birthday was the day before, arrive and they got to go pick you up somewhere. So that's what took me those 2 miles to the turnaround and then the last like 20 something back. But I was just like, I want to get off this highway and I don't want to be like those people in the barbecue picnicking on the other side or laid out. I want to go home. I want to get off of here and I just want to find my kids. And when I got to that transition and all I saw was Mom, I was like, oh my God, you made it. I'm so glad to see you. But I gotta run a marathon, so I'll see you later. So yeah, it was brutal. I was glad that I made cutoffs that I wasn't prepared for and made it to transition. But after that, Eddie, why don't you tell us what it was like to get off your bike and realize you still had to run?
Run? You ran? Because I didn't. It was a 26.2 mile hour, 26.2 mile trudge. and I had this whole plan. I mean, my plan was, mwah, it was 13-hour plan. I said, as long as I can maintain this and that and this, and even after that horrific bike, I was like, you know what? I can still make 13 hours. I can still do this as long as I. And then it was just like, for some reason, my body just couldn't go, and I had no. I spent the first 10K just trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and you know, I switched to Infinite for nutrition, and I mean, I didn't have the GI issues I've had in the past with sloshing in my belly and cramping, but it just wasn't enough. There was something missing, and like I said, I spent 6 miles just trying to figure out what's wrong with me, till I just attributed to, well, I just suck at Ironman, so cool, you know. And then once I established that, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to finish this race. It's not going to be pretty, but I'm going to finish it. And then I ran through that beautiful neighborhood, and I realized that the only reason these people let me walk on their sidewalk is because I paid $1,000 to be there. You know, I realized that there's no point that they would let a New Yorker from the Bronx, you know, Eddie Vega from the Bronx, hang out in that Zaza neighborhood. No offense to you, you know, Zaza, but what a beautiful neighborhood it was, and you know, and then we got back into town, and I saw my family on the other. They were waiting on the other side of the river. You know that walkway that was covered. They had like the scaffolding. They were just on the other side of that. So I'm walking, they see me, yay, they cheer for me on the other side of the river. And I tell the guy next to me, I just got to get around this corner running so that they don't see me die, you know? So I'm running, and then as soon as I turn that corner and I'm out of view, I'm like, and I go back to walking. It was just, I didn't like the course, the three loops. I wasn't a fan of those 3 loops. Seeing 2 miles 20 and, you know, and 18 on the same floor mat, that was demoralizing, honestly. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to do any of it again.
It was devastating. I did feel like the excitement was like just keeping me alive of seeing people. It was better than the bike course. And because I saw my sons like in that neighborhood, they came out of the bush and was like, Mom, you're doing good. It's nice out here. And they're just like walking a little bit. I was like, how did you guys know to come over here? I'm dying. It took me maybe the first 4 miles to not feel dizzy, because I almost walked into the men's changing tent until a woman grabbed my arm and was like, ma'am, athlete, this way. And I was like,
You don't want to go in there. That's where all the dicks hang out.
I was almost there. And I was just like, I just got to sit out and put on my sneakers and figure out how I'm going to make it. Brenda, what was that like for you?
So I was on the struggle bus for the run. It's springtime, there's pollen everywhere, there's trees, and I've got allergies and asthma. So my legs felt great. I felt good with my legs, and I hate running with my inhaler, and I never use it. So it's just this thing to carry. So I had the brilliant idea of putting my rescue inhaler in my special needs bag. And I got asthma right after I passed it. And I'm like, should I turn around and go back 2 miles, or should I just keep going forward and in 6 more miles I'll get it? And so I was like, let me just slow down. It's like when you have an asthma attack, you cough, you wheeze, and the more you try to cough stuff out, it makes it worse. So I'm like, I'm just going to try to not cough. And I just slowed down. And what I think happened was all the crap from the lake was in my nose. And then you're in aero position on the bike, and it all is just there. And then you finally get vertical, and it just starts draining in the back of your throat. So I think that's what it was. Because just jogging 6 more miles, it went away, and I didn't need my inhaler. But the last loop was the worst and the best. It was an experience for sure, because this was my first one. So I had my flashlight. I'm ready for, starts getting dark, and I'm like, I'll turn the flashlight on when I really need it. And I turn this corner, and I'm getting lightheaded, dizzy. I don't know where I am, and it's dark. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice. In my head, I'm in this like dreamlike state. It's like a ghost comes out of the woods, and I just hear, "Would you like some water?" And I literally in my head, I'm like, "What's happening? Is this like a stranger, some guy in the woods or something?" I'm like, "Let me turn my light on," and I just see this face in like this Dixie cup. "Would you like some water?" And then I'm like, that cup looks familiar. And I'm looking around. I'm like, "Is this an aid station? Y'all need some lights. Like, get some lights. It's too dark. Like, is this an aid station? Y'all are so quiet." And I'm like, "Yes, I would like some water. I'm thirsty. I need some water." So I turn my flashlight on, and then I go through the rest of just walk, jog, crawling. And then I got to see Hippie Hollow at night with the lights. And I think it just got dark, and they were like full of energy. They like these people cheering, they don't pace themselves. And like it got dark and they got really excited. So that was really fun to run through. And then of course you have to walk right after because, it was a big effort to push through Hippie Hollow. But yeah, it was great. It was great. And terrible at the same time.
Jamie, share with us what your run experience was like.
Well, my run experience was very stiff in the beginning, but I kept hope alive, and I'm like, this will end, things will loosen up, I will be fine. And I like the 3 loops because I can break it up. And then you got, for Ironman Texas, I feel like there's 5 miles of you're kind of alone with some randos in there, and then you got a push and excitement for about 3 miles of those loops. So I was able to break it up in my head going into it. Mile 4, it was just like 2022 all over again. I was belching at first, and I was like, okay, maybe I should take it easy on the fluids. There was no sloshing around, but it was just like a lot of belching. And so I'm like, okay, hopefully this doesn't turn bad. But it did. But I was also 2 more miles into the marathon than I was the last time I vomited Ironman Texas. So I started vomiting at mile 4. And it was more remnant of the, like, not Ironman Texas, you probably drank too much lake water sick. It was more of like Western Australia, something with the electrolytes was off, like you had too much sodium, not enough water, or I know I didn't have more water, so it was probably I didn't have enough water, and now the stuff that's on my stomach just it will not settle. So I started sipping water, and of course, like what do we always do? We kind of just like micromanage every little detail and try to figure everything out. So that's what I'm doing while I'm kind of just trying to like run through the vomiting. And so after I vomited, before getting into like town, I say town, but getting onto the Riverwalk path where you get more spectators, I vomited right before that aid station in the good, beautiful homes, like in their grass. So I was giving them some fertilizer. And then I felt fine. I was like, okay, everything's off my stomach that needed to get off. I'm going to be good. So I like started running, but I'm feeling like exhausted. So I'm like tired. And then my handheld water, nutrition bottle is heavy. And of course, since I'm vomiting, I know I'm not going to want it. And I had already had a plan the area was going to be right at Hippie Hollow, because you can like cross over from one side to the other and see your athlete every 3 to 4 miles. Well, he wasn't there. Yeah, he wasn't there. So I'm like getting cheers from, Rockwall Tri Club, and I'm coming up to the Hippie Hollow, and I don't see him. And I'm like, I got to run with this thing. And now these people are banging these fucking trash cans. And so I'm mad because I don't see them, right? But that's giving me energy to like run, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe he is on the other side somewhere. So I start running. I hear I think I hear the core girls this lap, on the first lap. And I'm pretty sure I waved, but I'm not 100% sure because the laps kind of got mixed in together over time. But I don't hear him yelling from the other side. And it got to the point where you go to where you kind of come up and do a loop around or out and back. And I was like, where is this Negro at? He ain't a Negro, but I'm just saying. So that's what's going through my head. And I'm like, I'm probably not even going to see him this lap. Should I just like toss this when I see the next, person that I know and tell him to grab it? But that madness kept me running even though I wasn't feeling well. So it distracted me from the belching and the nausea, and it just kept me running.
If it makes you feel any better, I did see him at some point, and he looked very scared. So,
okay.
I did see him. He was running back and forth, legitimately running back and forth on that side of the river, and he looked scared and lost.
Okay.
I'd be scared too.
Of you looking pissed, and I was like, I'm scared for him because I remember not seeing my husband in Puerto Rico, and I was pissed, and that didn't get me running. I just walked. I was just like, I don't even know why, but so I'm glad it worked in the opposite for you.
Yeah,
Puerto Rico, I was not running.
It's kind of one of those things where, I know seeing him will give me a boost, and I know seeing him will like lift my spirits even though I'm having a bad day, because I just have to tell someone, right? Like you just have to tell someone things is not going to plan. And I did eventually see him around mile 7 or something like that, and I gave him the bottle. I did not say a word to him because I knew I needed to be grateful that he was still in Texas. Okay, like I just knew I needed to be grateful and not say anything. But yeah, I was not happy and I was not smiling, even though he was trying to, say cheese and be like, smile, get happy. No, I'm not happy right now, but I didn't say anything. So I went on to my second loop. The vomiting got a little bit worse, but it wasn't so frequent like 2022. So there was no frequent vomiting after every single aid station. It was just when I would vomit, it would stop me dead in my tracks. So of course, here I am, kneeled on the ground in a fetal position, vomiting, and here comes a police officer calling an ambulance, and I'm like trying to just get the words out to cancel the medic. Like I'm gonna keep going. So I finally got the words out to cancel the medic. I get up. I get super dizzy because I got up too fast because I just wanted to show him that I was going to keep going. And I took a few steps and had to sit back on the curb and start vomiting again. But I was not, even though I was telling myself the whole time during that vomiting and kneeling on the ground that this distance probably isn't for me. And that I should probably stop right now and just go home. I don't think I have that gene to just I probably would have had to pass out. Even though I will say I want to stop and I want to quit and it crosses my mind, there's just something about it that I can't bring myself to actually quit. So I kept going, and I saw Ariel on the second lap. That's probably when Eddie saw him pacing because he was in the good neighborhood. So he came and met me as soon as possible, and I gave him a big hug. I cried. I let him know that, I don't know what to do. Like, I feel like I had been doing everything I said I was going to do on the bike as far as nutrition, and it still didn't work. So I was upset. And I told him I was going to do this distance again. And he told me I couldn't quit and that I was doing amazing. Yeah, that's what he said. You're doing amazing. You're doing better than you think you are. Get out of your head. That's his key phrase. Get out of your head. Get out of your own way. And he was like, you can walk. You can run. Just don't stop. So that's what I did. I walked when I needed to, when I would get nauseated and dizzy. And then I ran to get through people who was annoying me, like Hippie Hollow during certain points. So yeah, there was moments of, gratitude because Pam was also there telling me I was doing amazing and to just keep going. And then the core girls, I gave, Katrina a hug, and cried it out with her a little bit, and she told me to run for her because her day did not go as planned. And I knew what I wanted from the race, and I wasn't having that day, but I couldn't let it beat me. So I just kept going. And then the time came, 2 miles came, and I saw Ariel again. And he was like, well, I saw Ariel on both sides after the initial incident. So lap 2 and 3, I saw him on both sides. So I saw him with 2 miles to go, and he tells me that in order to get a knee slide, that I needed to run at least a 12-15 pace for to the finish. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about a knee slide right now. Like, but okay. But at no point at that, like, just hearing that was like, okay, can I do it? So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So I just ran. I didn't really care if it was 12-15, but I knew if I ran, I could hold at least a 10-minute pace, no matter how, weak I was. And so that's what I did. And I was like, look down. It was like 9:40 at times. And I'm like, okay, well, at least I got a buffer so I can walk the aid station. So I still walk the aid stations even at that point. And the finish line came, the end came, and I was so happy. That red carpet, oh my goodness, it was so sweet. It's amazing how much energy you think you have because it's over, right? Like, you think you have all this energy because it's over. So I'm over here like skipping and dancing, and I'll do my little pose for the camera. And Gary tells me, I didn't catch it. I was talking. You got to do it again. And I'm like, what? I got to do it again? I'm like, okay. All right, I can do this. And then, of course, I'm like almost bending over, kneeling down, looking like I need medical. And the girl asked me if I needed medical. I'm like, no, I got to do it again. So I need to catch my breath. So I do I do my finish line a second time, and yeah, I was like, he's like, I don't think I got it that time either. I'm like, oh well, like, I'm not doing it again. I gotta go sit down. So yeah, at the end of it, I still didn't want to do another Ironman. Like, that bike, as fun as it was, I think it took more out of me, and I pushed too hard. And that's why I didn't have the run that I wanted. But at the same time, like, that whole run, as usual, kind of just like broke me. It broke my soul, broke my spirit. So yeah, I was not really feeling the 140.6 that night. I'm sorry to anyone that I didn't wait for to finish, but things was not really going well. I still couldn't eat anything, or like nothing was holding without getting nauseated. So yeah, but I'm glad everyone safely did not have to go to the hospital. I'm pretty sure some people still ended up in medical. I did not go to medical. I probably should have, because clearly I was severely dehydrated. So if you ever feel crappy after a race, it's free. Go. Don't have too much pride like I did, because I didn't want to have a 2022 episode. But yeah, I talked about my medical issues post, but it was not ideal. But I have gotten it all clear from the doctor to start training.
Eddie, why don't you share with us what your finish line experience was like?
Jesus. Well, I just wanted to get there, really. About 3 miles before, I'm like, all right, let me try to figure out what I'm gonna do. In Lake Placid 2017, I was like, I'm gonna jump up, and this before I knew what the hell I was doing. I said, I'm gonna jump up and I'm gonna click my heels, and it's gonna be so cool. And I wound up doing like this little chicken dance. I looked like Elmer Fudd, And you can actually go back and watch it somewhere, I think, on YouTube. And it was kind of ridiculous. This time I was like, all right, what am I gonna do? You can jump up in the air, but you can't really jump up in the air because it's gonna hurt. You're gonna hurt your quads. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna do the arm slug. Yeah, everybody does the arm slug. Yeah, I'm there. So what am I gonna do? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna just jump in the air like breakfast, like the end of the Breakfast Club, you know. And I didn't get as high as I wanted to, about 4 inches off the ground. But 4 inches is enough if you really try hard enough. Huh? Huh? Um, so I got my 4 inches off the ground. I got my little hop in the books, and my family was there. My wife, my mother, my stepdad, my daughter. They were all there, and they got a great video of me coming across, and I was happy to be done. It wasn't the best time. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't how I envisioned my day being, but I got there, and I think we're never going to be happy. I don't think I've ever met an athlete that said, I had a great race and I've never been better. I think every single athlete I've ever talked to, and I've been doing this sport I've been doing for, God, almost 12 years, probably more than that. I've been running for a long time, and I really don't think anyone in that ever time has ever been happy. And I think it's just kind of a mental illness that we all have is no matter how well you do, you can PR, but you could have always done a second more. You can have a great race, but you could always have done better. And especially in triathlon, where it's like, I had an amazing race, but I could have done a minute less on the swim if I had just done a little dolphin kick longer, because you have 3 different disciplines to do better in, and we're never happy. We're never happy with what we have. But you know what? I'll always be grateful to have having the opportunity to do my third and final Ironman. And I'm never coming back to Texas. The Hardy.
That was going to be my last question. Where are you coming back? Before we keep going, let's find out how Brenda's finish line experience is, and then I need to double back on what everybody's doing.
The finish line, the course kind of takes you close to it. You hear it, you see it, and you're like, yes. And there's no walking on the red carpet. So you're like, all right, time to start running now. But then you have to take a turn and you go down that sidewalk and it's like, oh my God, that's too long. And you have to kind of spread out so you're not crowded. And there was like somebody in front of me, somebody behind me. And I just felt that pressure, like, well, you have to keep running now. And so I was just kind of frustrated that I couldn't walk up until the red carpet. I was like jogging and so I was pretty over it. I was just ready to be done. And I was just trying to tell myself, smile, don't stop your watch, just keep going, just smile. You're on camera, just get through there. So I was just happy at that point to be done with it.
I mean, I was overtime. Though I finished the course, it was over the 17 hours, which was devastating. Yeah. But, having my sons on the course and not passing out, because I really felt like I was so borderline, but I just didn't want to do that while they were there. I was so dizzy. I was clearly dehydrated. But I was just like, unless somebody puts me on some stretcher, like I'm just not leaving the course. Like I'm just going to keep going until I get to the finish line. And they saw me go through the finisher chute. So for that, I am completely grateful. But once I got through there, my friend Pam was there and said, Shasha, ice cream. Then I ran right to her and said, Pam, I don't feel well. And she said, wheelchair over here, please. Went right into the medical tent, which probably should have happened hours ago. So I'm grateful for finishing the course. I'm mad at Texas, not the place or the race, but I do feel like I want to go back and redeem myself. That's just a feeling that I have. I'm not, I always ask at the end, would you recommend? And before I mention that, for myself, I'll ask you all. Jamie, would you recommend, since you did for me, would you recommend others come to Texas to complete Ironman Texas?
Yes, I do recommend it. I think it's a great venue. But I do think you need to meet someone else who've done the course before to prep you for what is Ironman Texas, because there is a way to be successful. People are successful with it all the time. Brenda's a first timer. She finished. So was Adam. So it's a hard race, but no Ironman is easy. So if the location works, if the timing works, if I feel like if you need a wetsuit swim in a lake water, it works. If you're someone who likes to be on the trainer, it works. So it has some benefits, and I would recommend it again. And I probably will end up going back. I mean, this Eddie called it a mental illness or whatever. Brenda called it a drug. I'll probably end up going back. Like, it is like a drug. Like, I don't know how many hours later, less than 12 hours later, I had signed up for another one. So, yeah.
Sicko, sick. You're sick.
Brenda, would you recommend Ironman Texas?
I would. I think it was a good first race for me, at least. I've done the Ironman 70.3 Texas, and I think that bike course really prepared me for this one. Like knowing how to handle your bike with the wind and learning the importance of having a power meter and not blowing up your legs. I think the bike course is the hardest part of this I think the bike is the hardest part of this course. The run was amazing, and the run being my weakest discipline, it was a phenomenal run course. I really did like the 3 loops, so I would recommend it.
Eddie?
Will I do it again? I don't know. Will I do any 140.6 again? I don't know.
You still don't know?
I still don't know.
Eddie, would you recommend?
Hell no. You know what? It wasn't terrible overall. I wasn't successful in it because of my own failings. I think that if you train appropriately, and like Jamie says, if you are if you're aware of the course, because just like everything in Texas, this Ironman is its own entity. You know what I mean? And if you're prepared for it, you can succeed. I was not prepared, and I'll be the first person to take responsibility for that. So if you're prepared to push watts on a race and, stay arrow and really push the run, I think that you can be successful. But I would not do it again, just because there's so much more to do, like drink beer and scotch and not Ironmans. So I've got a lot of plans. Most of them involve beer and scotch. And I've got a couple of 70.3s going this year. But I'm prepared to drink more beer than electrolyte liquids.
Understood. But thank you for sharing. I don't know. I don't think it's not one that I would recommend. I think I still love Cozumel. That's another windy race. And I did 2 70.3s leading up that were windy. So I didn't feel like it was a complete comparison. Like, I didn't feel like the 70.3 in Texas was exactly the same type of wind that I felt at the full. So I don't think I recommend, because I think there's other windy races that have better scenery. Because in Cozumel, I think the wind is very comparable, but you have the beach versus the highway or people on the side of the road, which was scary to see. So I'm grateful that I made it to the finish line, but I'm not sure it was one that I would recommend for others. though I was good training through the winter. Like, I was glad that I trained through the holidays. I'm glad that I had friends to train with, to prepare me. I just think other things just, made it not be my day for Ironman Texas. But with that, I want to say thank you to my guests, first timer and return, for giving me episode 4. I hope all of their feedback was very beneficial to all of you listeners. I'm excited for what they have next and to follow them. And the fact that I get to do races like this and meet great people is always, always a bonus. Thank you for watching Exposed Vegan Media. If you like this episode, please share it with others and subscribe. We look forward to sharing more information with you.